some people's numbers and metrics.
All right.
Hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Open cool down. 25. Sick. Anybody want to say anything cool about the open?
The open sucks. I'm just kidding.
That was great.
No, it was good.
Dude.
Back to repeating workouts. That's unfortunate.
Who did I tell this to? I was like, it was my athlete Jacqueline, who she doesn't do the open, but she trains CrossFit, and she had like a picture of her barn and like their water slide and some other stuff, and it was super sunny. It's been sunny, and I was like, dude, next year I gotta like schedule a vacation to your house like after the open.
We should have a camp there.
So yeah, we could. It's small. I mean, it'd be cool for outdoor activities. It would be cool, but it'd be cooler to do like survival camp. We could just have Noah run survival camp right there. No, but like after running the open, and Heather and I were here every Friday morning till night doing the heats. We did like 73 people like every day, every week. It's crazy. And then Saturday would come and things would get weird. We'd have all the competitors running 4 people at a time, and we'd start at 10 and be done like at 1. I would just be smoked every time. Yeah. I need a vacation from the open.
It was a long couple days.
Well, like Heather said and Harley was saying before we got back on the call, it's back to the old ways, the old school open for the OGs, people doing the open from 2011 all the way up to 2018.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
At least there's only 3 weeks though.
I was going to ask that, Harley, because how much responsibility do you have now of like running the open?
More than I realized. I mean, in a way, like Chase is really excited about it. He's always going to do it. He's on his 11th year as well. So like he's said what we've said, we're not stopping anytime soon until basically like it goes away. Like we're just going to keep doing it. So he and I did a lot of it on Friday or whatever, Thursday, whenever the open was announced. We established like what the floor plan was and what lines we need and stuff. And then he was like, all right, cool. I got to go to this stuff. Will you go grab tape? And I'm like, oh, so I'm setting it. And I had Deshaun help, but like at the same time, like that wasn't necessarily talked about ahead of time. So that caught me off guard a little bit, but like, so he helped out with the last week. Yeah. What's that?
We have a tape debacle.
Let's not talk about it on the internet.
You don't want it? Okay.
No, it's okay. It wasn't like a tape debacle. It was more of like he just has a lot going on his plate off to the side outside of the gym too, and like it wasn't really planned of like who's in charge of setting up stuff. And then Jeff, on the contrary, is like he's kind of anti-open. Yeah, I'll just say that. Simplest terms, kind of anti-open. So there's a division.
Anti-open for us, but they were too scared to say anything to me.
There was just a division of coaches who were excited about it. And so between the 3 of us who I would say hold the most responsibility in the room, it was me and Chase, but Chase is distracted at times. So then it basically was me. It felt like in some ways, in at least setting up and then helping people with retests and like just being around and trying to like add value to the people's experience. So throughout Friday Night Lights, Chase was there every week, which was great. Jeff didn't show up to a single one, which was not so great. So unfortunate, because again, the division of how people felt about it definitely showed, and it sucked.
Yeah, which I think it's hard because it's hard to like have your members and like taking a stance as a community when like you have people that are like kind of in or out.
I don't want to, because your opinion is I just want to cut through about taking a stance. I was thinking about this a lot because like the open's over now and we talked about it, and all of our members doing it, and like those responsibilities that Harley was talking about. And I'm like, man, and I was telling somebody either today or yesterday, I was just like, it's bigger than the CrossFit thing. It's bigger than any of your opinions. It's bigger than what you think is morally right or not right, or whatever it is that you decided about this thing for whatever reason. And then also like, just generally, if you're burnt out, like just see your way out, please. Because, and it said how you see it everywhere. You see it on the internet, you see it everywhere. We see it in our gym firsthand. And I've been given a lot of energy to the gym, and so is Heather. And we wanted to make this a huge experience because that value is the greater value. What people are getting out of it, the Friday Night Lights, like even, CJ is like the energy was good at Friday Night Lights, but it kind of lackluster in my experiences. And like, and that's just because she's been in our environment for Friday Night Lights. But I know that Harley was probably killing it and putting himself out there and trying to crush it with all the tools that he had available for him. But looking back at it, it's like the Open is about the people in your gym.
Right.
And I know that people are like, well, I'm going to not pay the $20 because I don't want CrossFit out of my money and I don't want to support that organization. Guess what? It still happened with or without you. And you not giving that money does hurt, like we've said in the past, does hurt the experience for everybody. And it's hard because you need to, I don't want to say don't overlook things. Be aware that those are the things and like you're not okay with it. But also look at the things that like the people in your gym need from you as a leader of the community. The fitness test, the fitness competition that it is. That would be like going to a 5K run and holding up a sign that's just like, you guys all suck, I hate you. Like on the sideline as they run by. Like that's what you're doing. Yeah. And whether that's a coach or a community member, like we don't need that.
Well, and I think you're like seeing it's beyond just like CrossFit. And I know people want to like hold on like however they feel and not wanting to do the Open. But I think when people like reframe it, that it's like supposed to be about like your community, your people, regardless of the leaderboard and what's happening outside of the four walls of your gym. Like it should be about your members, their development, their growth, them doing hard things, like taking on challenges, putting themselves in uncomfortable situations, yada, yada. Like, I think that's what it should really be about, and challenging your members in your gym about that, regardless of like CrossFit and the leaderboard.
And like, let CrossFit give you the tools to do that, right? They put up the leaderboard, people put in the scores. Like that's where your $20 is going. Like, let's not be confused by that. And now the money, the prize money, that's great for the elite athletes. Cool. Some of your money's going there, whatever. But like really like the pictures, the formats, what are you laughing about? Oh, it's CJ. Oh, you're reading the comments.
No, it's fucking Cody, not CJ.
I know. CJ said I stole Harley's attention and energy. And then Cody comes back with, I stole all of Harley's energy last night. What a good dude. What a funny guy. Anyways, yeah, I think for me at the end of the Open, like, and it's always been this way. And it was more apparent now, especially with how far we've come with this gym in this area. Like, because when we came in this gym and took it over, they weren't doing CrossFit. They weren't doing CrossFit. They were not a CrossFit affiliate. They were doing CrossFit-like things. They were following Chalk's program, Human Body Performance Program by Ryan Fisher. And like, I just wouldn't call that CrossFit in the sense of being ready for the test of the Open or GPP. They were not.
Yeah. So we put out a survey this past week as the Open ended, and we just wanted to get an idea of like what people are interested in, to see like, do people care about the Open? Do they want to train CrossFit? Do they want to pivot towards endurance and high rocks and doing outdoor fitness, and like what are their goals? And of course we got a wide array of responses, but like it was a large portion, like a very large portion was like, I don't care about the Open. And then another response was like other, and people, there was numerous people that was like, I don't train for the Open, but I want to see my placement go up. And it's like, okay, so like, but most people's goals were oriented towards performance improvements, and that does align with performance improvement. So if you look at the Open through a lens of like a once a year opportunity to test your fitness as a checkpoint and where you're at, regardless of if your money goes to CrossFit or not, like you still have to put your name on a leaderboard to really get your percentile and have that as a reference point. So it is a tool. And this is what I kind of disagree with. Like, it's measurable, observable, because every year the tests are different unless there's a repeat, and every year the sign up, the number of signups vary, who's even on the leaderboard varies, but you still could use it as a checkpoint relative to your peers, at the very least in the room, right? You could always do the like create your own gym's leaderboard and things like that. But it was interesting to see how many people, we only had 40 people in our gym sign up for the Open. We didn't push it, but at the same time, we only had 40 sign up total. Not great turnout. And then after seeing the survey, it's like, well, it makes sense. The vast majority don't give a shit anymore. So it's like, if we tried to make them give a shit, like by speaking more positively and being like, hey, this is what we're doing as a community, But I think that there's this, again, coming back to like the division, it just is what it is. Like people have their opinions.
Yeah, which is crazy because like I don't want to like I think people's perspective needs to understand that like we're not brainwashed by CrossFit. Like we're not trying to like just promote and push this thing because it's in the same thing in endurance racing in the endurance community. It's the same thing in like I don't know, pickleball doesn't really have tournaments, but the runners sign up for running and they're in the running community and their goal is to improve their performance in running from all degrees and levels. Whether you're doing fun runs, I wouldn't even say they're all fun runs because like you wear a bib, you cross a timekeeper line, and then you go to another timekeeper line, and that gets sorted onto a leaderboard. So it's a running competition any way you slice it. But it could be for fun. But like you go out and like Harley said, you test your fitness or your running capability or cycling or hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh,
Bless you.
Bless you.
and you so like because you're doing functional fitness, it's the same thing as like high rocks. Like high rocks and CrossFit are the same thing. And Tia has proved that. We already knew that. We've been talking about it. It's just skewed towards the endurance lens, and you do need to do more running. But like Tia just set the world record with the other best high rockser in the pairs doubles women. And she's going to go out, and if she continues to do this thing, will set the record for women in high rocks. And I would put my life on it that James Sprague, if he really wanted to, would come out and set the world record in high rocks for men and beat all of those people, because CrossFit does prepare you for anything. As much as I hate that statement and the unknown and unknowable, it does. It's a good base of training, and the same way running. So you just look at the Open as our event for everybody. Just like everybody can sign up for the local 5K, everybody can sign up for a marathon, everybody can in the same other human performance sports and testing bodies. Because once you do that thing, like Harley said, you're going to do that thing and then you're going to take some information away and you're going to build for the next thing. And really the important stuff is building in that prep. You know, and Harley's going to hate on this because I love Nick Bear, but he posted yesterday and I thought it was perfect. And he posted about how it's not about, he actually throws all the bibs and medals away. Because for him, it's not about the end result. It's about the process and the prep and choosing the goal and being accountable to the goal and building into the goal and changing himself and chasing his human performance beyond that goal. So like for him,
I mean, I relate to that too, because like back whenever I did endurance, like I had like a clothes hanger full of medals in my closet because I was like, every event would give you a participation medal, and I'm just like, these mean nothing to me because it's just another checkpoint. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like going to Granite Games, I still have like my 2018 Granite Games medal behind me because I'm like, yeah, I earned that, right? But like participation versus winning is where the value is. And I think that if we are just going to look at the Open through the lens of community participation, engagement, but also a checkpoint in your fitness, you don't need to necessarily like hang your entire sense of self-worth and value on that, but you can use it as a tool to guide the future training. Because we all, and just like the survey showed in our gym, we all want performance gains. We are training. That's the common ground that we all have as CrossFitters and people who train in affiliates is we don't just go in and work out. If we did, we would go hit the stair stepper for 10 minutes, hit some bicep curls and go home at a Globo gym.
Yeah, but that like, wouldn't improve what you want to do.
No, I'm saying if we just wanted to work out and we didn't care about performance, that's what we would do. If you're training and you're in an affiliate and you want to see performance games, we place value on that. We place value on effort and execution. And the Open is just an opportunity to check in on that. And CJ shared that like in the comments in past years that, you know, we would put it up on the whiteboard. We would put a goal of number of people signing up. We like really communicated the value of it as a group. And because there was that division and leadership and opinions within the leadership, we didn't want to create division in our network. Like actually like in our respect, we wanted to respect each other's opinions. And so we just said, we're not going to push it, but we want to still bring people together. I think where we fell short is communicating the value of Friday Night Lights and communicating the value of coming together and pushing each other and like actually like driving that point home, whether or not we like ask people to sign up. But it's like we had the 3:30 class was insanely large because we took away the 4:30 class to start Friday Night Lights. But like 30 people would show up to the 3:30. I'm like, guys, just wait an hour. Like, why didn't you just wait an hour and come to Friday Night Lights? You know, like
Yeah.
it would have been way more hyped. But it's because the value and like the push for the camaraderie wasn't.
Yeah, and also the understanding.
Clear.
Like I think
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about the understanding, and like even Regina's getting in. Hello, Regina. Welcome to the show. As an affiliate owner, we had to remind members that it's just a yearly physical test, trying to spin it more about them than CrossFit. This year was different than years before. And it's true, but it has always been that physical test, that physical checkpoint. And like Harley said, I know now from doing more opens where my physicality lies. And one of the biggest mistakes I've made is not getting a coach sooner, because I missed making Masters semifinals by like 200 spots, which kind of sucks. Now, that wasn't the goal. I want to do it in 40 to 44, but I could have gotten a lot fitter if I brought in Marissa to coach me a lot sooner. And I made that error of not having a one-on-one coach to fix those problems. But what she's done and what we do for a lot of people is we go back through people's open or other fitness performances, because it goes beyond just your fitness level. Like your fitness inside of a competition or pressure, like Friday Night Lights, because a lot of people will put mental pressure, emotional pressure on that thing, put their name on a leaderboard. There's some buy-in. It's a social statement because your name is on a worldwide leaderboard that everyone can see. And so there's lots of different things you can work on, not just the physicality of it. Like Regina's saying, it is a physical fitness test, but it's also like a mental test. It's an emotional test. And like, I'm glad Harley brought that up. And there's nothing wrong with people not wanting to come to Friday Night Lights and everything else, but those 30 people missed an opportunity, in my opinion, to test themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. And maybe some of them were coming because the easier thing to do would come at the 3:30 class instead of putting your name on the list and competing and having some disappointment, having a little bit of anxiety, putting yourself through the ringer a touch. Even though there were people, CJ said, I think there were also a lot of members that did the workouts every week and sometimes multiple times, but didn't sign up, which is still cool. Like, I'm glad they did it multiple times and put themselves through that pressure, but there's more to it than that in competing. And this is the thing that you can compete in functional fitness when you're going to CrossFit gym or even a Hyrox. Like, there aren't like Hyrox gyms yet. I'm sure there will be just Hyrox only, but I would argue Hyrox athletes could do the open, and just like CrossFitters are doing Hyrox. And both of those things are putting you under this test, this expression of physicality that you're looking for, which you had a survey where everyone wants to improve. Well, just use the thing as the beacon to improve, because it encompasses the things we do every day to improve. And it's like the argument of CrossFit, like you're just trying to make a better athlete. You're not trying to make someone athletic. Like when you're using it for sports specific, like that person is throwing at football or throwing at basketball. Like they said about Tyson Bagent, like they used CrossFit to make him just better. Football, he was good at already. He's going to continue to do that thing, but he used the CrossFit to leverage that and push him forward. And he was probably going to play in the NFL anyways, but now it's giving him a better advantage to do that thing. So like in anyone's case, and it's different. We talk about Harley's situation. You guys are in Colorado. I know that that's one of the largest areas in the United States that has the most endurance racing people, with like mountain biking, ultra marathon runners. People moved to Colorado to train there who are highly professional in endurance to get the altitude effect and altitude training effects. So like you're in a community where people really do care about performance, and by being in CrossFit for so long that this method based by principles can help them improve their performance. And you're just going to try and encourage them to do the open to use that as the test that you're doing the right things for this functional fitness thing. Unless they're out there racing. If someone's out there racing and they're like, I do 3 mountain bike races a year, I'm not going to do the open. Like I would be like, yeah, man, cool. No problem. You got it.
I still did the open. Anyways.
How many people do you have that come in are like doing races and testing themselves outside of CrossFit? Because like here we don't have that, and in California we didn't really have that. Like people ran marathons and turkey trots and stuff, but like.
So off the top of my head, I can think of 5 people, just like boom, 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 that I've had conversations with that they either came to CrossFit as like their off season, and they're like, I want to take a break, get a little stronger from doing all this endurance stuff. So, I mean, that's rattled off 5. Like, and I can think of others that are training for half marathons, full marathons, whatever, alongside their CrossFit, and they're going to run clubs every week. And one guy just told me last night he's doing the New York High Rocks in June. So
Cool.
like we have people doing stuff. It's just not CrossFit specific for everyone, which is awesome. Like I think using the fitness is where it's at.
Yeah, that's my point. Like if you had more people doing that, I could see you like, oh yeah, whatever, don't do the open, it's chill. But like it sounds like you don't. That's not the majority. So until you have the majority doing that, I just don't see a reason. Like to Regina's point,
You want to know what's silly about our not a majority, but we got a large portion of feedback on Tuesdays throughout the open and wanted to balance some intensity, so we went longer on Tuesdays, implementing some station work. And yes, it was machines. We have 10 sleds, so we made station work so we could utilize the sleds. We want to use the equipment that we bought, so it was like echo bike into sled on the first 5-minute window, and then it was like ski or row into like farmer carry on the next 5-minute window. And everyone's like, I don't want to do high rocks. If I wanted to do high rocks, I'd go do Orange Theory. And we are like, bro, dude, that's not gonna that's not gonna make you good. Yeah. And so I'm over here like, dude, it's just variance for the sake of variance.
I have a question for you. I did today with the girls out here. I did every 5 minutes, 400-meter run, 10 sandbag cleans. Is that high rocks? Yes. Yes. Is it CrossFit? Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can we define what high rocks is? What makes high rocks high rocks?
What's up, Nate? Nothing. High rocks and CrossFit are the same thing, dude. They really are.
So my explanation to someone last night.
It's not nothing. I shouldn't say nothing. There are differences, but yes, high rocks is more endurance based. You got to be a good runner. That looking at the running, that's number one. If you're a good runner, then you should just do CrossFit and you'll get the high rocks.
In the weeds from like a simple definition standpoint.
Yeah.
High rocks is the same repeatedly.
That's true.
But it's a singular test.
Yeah.
That is what high rocks is. That's not high rocks training, but high rocks is a branded singular test. So what is high rocks training? What is hybrid training? We've already talked about this. Yeah. CrossFit makes the best hybrid athletes. It's well-rounded. We have short, medium, long. We have heavy, light, body weight, lunges, endurance, power, strength development, strength endurance. We have all the things, right? And so it's like high rocks is just a singular expression of what we train in a very narrow lens, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just because we put things that are utilized in that singular event in it doesn't mean it's just it's only that, right?
What, like, just to play off that, I like that a lot. I would just change my thing to that high rocks is more specific CrossFit, like a specificity.
Correct.
It's still CrossFit characteristics, but it's more specific.
Think about it this way. It's like if you just only train for Fran all the time.
Yeah, it's like that.
You know what I mean? Like you just pick one aspect of CrossFit and you just train for that all the time, exclusively.
No, there's nothing wrong with Orange Theory. People just want to talk shit.
Idiots.
Harley didn't say that. It was the people in the gym taking the class who said if they want to do high rocks, they would do Orange Theory, which was their connection. Which like is kind of a little bit cool in a way because they realize that it is more aerobic based than it is. So at least they're aware that they're doing more aerobic based training. So that's a nice little.
But isn't that what they asked for?
Do I know what's interesting? 26.7%, 26 to 27% of people asked to improve their aerobic capacity.
Oh, well, there you go.
The next closest characteristic that want to be improved was raw strength. So like absolute strength.
I have a question.
Pull,
so sled pulls and carries.
Hold on. So for that's not going to improve your raw strength, but it can supplement.
No, but the aerobic work does.
Yeah. That's true because anyways, we won't get into the science of how type 1 fibers take the load. Anyways, doesn't matter. So we're going to go. What's interesting with that is so you had 20% of people?
It was about 26 to 27. I think it was some decimal between the two. 26, 27 for aerobic capacity, 25 to 26 for raw strength, and everything else was like 10 to 13%. So everyone wanted to get stronger and everyone wants to get fitter.
I just needed those two numbers. So how much for the aerobic? 27%? Okay. How many times a week does the average member come to DTC?
3 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one day out of the week, if they're coming 3 to 5 days, 33%. And you had 27%. They want to increase their aerobic capacity. That's your argument now.
So we were discussing
when
the
they say,
balance of the
I don't
week.
want to do this, you go, listen, 27% wants to increase their aerobic capacity. So 27% of the training needs to be aerobic work. Got
So
you.
then I said, let's go long on Fridays too. Every other Friday, not every Friday, every other Friday. We'll go
Yeah.
long on Tuesdays, and every other Friday we'll go long. And then I was like, we can still put in a lift or something on like before the long on Friday if you want, or
Everyone said,
whatever.
"Heck no."
But regardless, and then Thursdays are sweat days. So Thursdays are like cardio, lower impact cardio days, if you want to lump it into that too. So he's like, but we're already going long on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We don't need to go long on Fridays. And I'm like, but we have a barbell in our hands 4 days a week. Why can't we go long 3 days a week? Like, if
Fair.
you want to get strong, if more people technically want to improve their aerobic capacity, why can't we go long 3 days a week and still get some type of strength or strength endurance work 4 days a week? Because they love their lifting. They want weightlifting in there all the time.
Well, yeah, that was the number one request we got back from our members was like, oh, everyone wants to get stronger. And I like watching the test that we had for the open. I was like, I don't know if you guys need to get stronger, to be honest. Because we had one guy, I'll give him a shout out, Joe Gallimore, did the workout at 1750. And his like 1RM like his 1RM clean is like 185. And he did those cleans at 135, all 25 of them. So like I would argue all of these workouts were high aerobic capacity tests more than anything else, assuming you could do all the things and you weren't bottlenecked by any of the skills. But I would say you have to be strong enough, like we've always said, and where that number is, it varies. But it's a high aerobic power output test on all three tests. Modalities specific aside. And it was crazy because he proved that. Joe proved that for me.
For sure. I mean, aerobic is where it's
I mean,
at.
a lot of people proved that for me. But like,
what I found incredibly interesting is I did yesterday's class workout, the station work I just outlined, that everyone was, or some people were like, I'm not doing this because I'm not doing high rocks or whatever they said. I cruised through it. Don't get me wrong. I actually skipped the sled because I was trying to save my legs for the bike, but like I ran 800 instead of doing biking and sleds. But I just cruised through the same time domain, arguably working longer on that given interval, getting less rest. And I was just like calm, cool, collected the whole time. I coach the evening classes. People are just like in a pile on the ground by the end of it. And I'm like, dude, no, it's good. It's good for them.
Because they don't have a huge aerobic base like you.
That's what I'm saying, is that people need it. Like people need to just go long. And that's what I'm trying to like instill in the community. Is like,
we were talking about that a little bit in a class model. Like you're 100% right. But like you can't get people to go long enough in a class model.
No, I agree. But like you could still go 30 to 40 minutes of total movement time.
Yeah, no, Heather gets mad because I now try to get like 20 to 35 minute like AMRAP EMOM style stuff. And then we try to do other stuff before. And I've like cut it down where we do like one round of the warm up. So then we can do like 30 minutes of like working time. Yeah. But it is hard as a coach. You got to be like on that shit. Or else
no, for sure. So like yesterday's station work, right? Like there was no skill setup, whatever. It was get warm, break, get warm, get activated, and get started. And like, so that was 40 minutes clock time. But like, there's no teaching really. You give a little talk about bring effort on the machines and then, control your breathing or focus on just sustaining and repeating effort. Yeah. And it's like, other than that, like, you're just like, all right, we got your heart up, let's go. And then but if there's anything of complexity in teaching, I think 30-minute clock time is like the absolute most you can do with quality.
Yeah. I was going to say though, like with some of those things, you should keep it like, I know you guys keep it simple, but just generally anybody watching who writes program for a gym or runs a gym, if you keep it simple enough, the teaching can happen and the intensity should be like RPE 6-7 for those types of workouts. So you can teach in the moment too, like in that time, in that 30 minutes, like I'll do that a lot. I don't try to stop people. We used to have a guy at Sundown that would just stop the athletes in the workout. And I'd be like, dude, don't do that.
Yeah. But
he was right. Like some people should be stopped and like taught how to do the thing. I agree. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, but they're here to like work out and sweat. But yeah, it's interesting because like you can try to finagle that teaching aspect like you're talking about inside of the workout a little bit when it's lower intensity. But like, yeah, you're doing a 12-minute AMRAP. It's like, just be quiet and go.
Well, I feel like we've done a really good job in our affiliate here of like, because we were doing those like High Rocks Thursdays days.
I just
or,
call
like,
them
go
High
by-
Rocks Thursdays.
Yeah.
It was just
And I
workouts
feel
I
like
was
people
writing.
like when you first started writing those, like people were like, they look at it. I remember the first week and they all were like complaining on the water cooler for like a week. And then they did it and they were like, oh, this was great. And then it kind of became a thing and
Everyone
became a
wants it
thing.
back.
Now
When are we
everyone
gonna
really
do it?
likes it. And I actually think that a lot of people did really well in the open because of that training.
Oh no, 100%.
Like we had so many athletes that were just, I
I
think
would
over
our
the
biggest
year.
deficit as a gym, like, and then I also have our biggest deficits as like athletes in general out there trying to compete. But our biggest deficit as a gym is pulling, upper body pulling strength. Everything else is phenomenal and like
Yeah.
skills, but the skills are limited by their ability to pull in their upper body pulling strength.
Yeah.
Even though they all still want to squat and like get the barbell back in
But
their
my
hands.
point
now.
is like, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe just because Todd is who he is, but he just like was able to convince them, right, that this is fun, this is the way. And over time, I think they got really bought into it. And that's, I think,
I just set the challenge. I was
Yeah,
like, who's gonna finish this workout?
yeah.
What at the end of the night, I posed the question because I kind of like my evening classes had 3 people in it. There are people that are regularly there. I think we, see eye to eye a lot. At the very least, they respect my opinion. And so I was like, oh, so people complained about this day. Like, did you guys have fun? And they were like, that was maybe one of the hardest sessions I've ever done in a class. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's cool. But I was like, I'm thinking of this as like those types of station work going from machine to something else as simple as 8 by 500 meter row.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a 500 meter row into a farmer carry, right? So it's like the meat and potatoes is the time on the machine. Like you bring intensity on the machine and then you just obviously have some time under tension afterwards. But really that's like just like the shiny thing. You know what I mean? That's kind of like just like to draw some attention away from the machine. But how else do you get a class to do 8 by 500 or 8 by 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off, like with intensity and buy-in? It's like you don't at all. And yet that's all that session was, right? Like how many of us and people in the chat can drop their line? Like how many people with a remote coach are just doing rowing repeats, are doing echo bike repeats, are doing running repeats?
I mean, I do try to spice it up, but yeah.
but that's the, if we go back to like OPEX, like energy system training doesn't have to look sexy, but it is super effective. It builds a huge base of fitness. So like when I left that class last night, I kind of brought it up and I posed that question. I'm like, if this was like 8 by 500, would you have like showed up? He's like, oh, I would have showed up, but I would have just like been really miserable throughout the whole thing. Like I would have had a negative mindset about it.
Yeah, it is hard to get people, unless you like have a clear definitive goal, but it is hard to get people to like want to do, like even yesterday I went out and I ran threshold while Ruth was at swim and I ran 4 minutes at high intensity, walked for 3 minutes and did that for 45, 50-ish minutes. And like I was thinking about it, and I'm running and I'm like trying to hold the pace and sustain and like work on my cadence and like in my tempo and everything else. And like there's just not a lot of people that find that enjoyable because like their goal of what they want to improve isn't greater than the pain that and the monotony, quote unquote, versus the variance. Because I was like, this is going to make me better at the open. This is going to make me better at CrossFit. Like I've gotten really close now and it's really cool to see like, oh man, I could get to semifinals as a master's athlete. Cause I never thought that would be a possibility for me. Like I knew I was good at CrossFit, but I didn't know I was like that good until Marissa started coaching me and now we're getting better. But like I'm out there running and like that goal inspires me beyond just like getting the goal. It's like, I'm a person who is this good and I'm going to dive into how good I can get. And I know that energy system and those efforts make me better. And whether I get the goal or not, at the end of like a year, like think of the human capacity that I'm going to have. And that excites me. So like while I'm running, I'm just like, you want this because over time, this session will be easy 6 months from now and you'll be crushing paces. And 2, you're going to translate that into the CrossFit, into whatever other physical challenge I want to do, into life. And we talk about it all the time, but like, I think that's the problem is we talked about the buy-in from the open. We talked about explaining these things to people and like ultimately that intrinsic like thought process and what people are thinking about while they're training, backed by the education Harley can give in class, that we can give in class, that we can give as coaches, just bolsters all of that and gives you a reason and a purpose to like in that moment be like, I'm going to do this 800 instead of being miserable for however long the time would have been for the 800-meter rows. It's crazy. Look at Nate loves aerobic. I love me some machine intervals. That's why you get fit fast, dude. He does. Nate is
Yeah.
crazy. I watched him come in. I'm gonna give him a hard time, dude. He comes in and I was like, hey man, actually I shouldn't say this. I don't want to say what I said to him, but I made a joke to him that was very inappropriate about his lack of fitness and like why he wasn't so fit after he got married and like the honeymoon and other stuff. I'm not gonna say the joke out loud because it was not. I should not have said it, and I did though. And in the time, it was funny, but in hindsight, it's not.
Okay, but
So, anyways, and I gave him a hard
So
time.
you're
About,
saying it was funny.
yeah.
yeah, it was funny at the time. Now in hindsight, it's not funny. No one should have said what I said. But anyways, I was making fun of him, and it's just like, bro, like you just like you're not a fit guy. Like what's happening? And then like I watch him, and it's crazy how fit he gets, how fast. It's cool. I'm like, dude, you got it. Whatever you got. And like, maybe because he loves Matt Frazier so much, it helps. Like he really believes it that he's Matt Frazier, and that's probably like his superpower. But yeah. And also he loves machine work. So that explains it. But yeah.
Well,
Nate,
his sole motivation is just beating you now.
oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do.
What's Todd doing is up on his wall now.
Oh, so I own him.
Oh.
I'm living rent-free in his mind. Sick. No, Renato, there's no time. You can come in and out of the show whenever you want. You're not late. But I appreciate you apologizing for your tardiness. Anyways, yeah, I think that's good. I think people need to, and that's like with the open or anything. It's finding the thing and just building in like why am I doing this? And we always talk about the why, and it doesn't have to be grandiose. Like I don't really think personally for me, and let's do this because this is a good experiment. You guys will go around and like explain your why. Because for me, it's like, hey, I want to see if I can. And that's really simple. Like and in the moments when things are tough and hard, I just go, well, you said that you want to see how fit you can be and how good you can be. So like, here you go. Here's the opportunity. And like that gets me through. And it may be more complex for a lot of people, but that's mine. Anyone want to share? I feel like our show could be like just Dr. Phil, or is it Dr. Phil?
Sure. No, it's Jerry Springer.
Oh my God. Heather and I don't fight that much. Just laugh about it, Heather. Just laugh. Go ahead, Harley.
Yeah, I don't know what kept me going for the CrossFit, for the pursuit of competitive CrossFit for like 8 years, to be honest. Everyone's like, oh, you need a why. And I'm like, I just like it. Like I like training. I've developed friends around it. Like it created this sense of identity and fulfillment and social life around it. And I think that carried me through the identity of believing like this is what I'm doing. And that for some people that may come with an existential sort of identity crisis whenever they stop. But I think that because I had pivoted from rodeo to CrossFit back whenever I was a late teenager, and had that transition, and that one felt harder than transitioning from CrossFit to mountain biking, because I was still in alignment with my values. And I know that my career is stable. I know that my friend circle is stable. I know the important things in my life aren't going to change just because I want to go ride a bike. And then I find it interesting. So like I tell people whenever I make a big new goal. So like whenever I decided I was going to bike, I told multiple people like, hey, I think I'm going to try to do like Leadville, like as my big goal. And we'll see if it ends up playing out, if I can get a spot or whatever. But like at the same time, it's like, I tell people something, and in my mind, it's like, you don't want to be a liar, or you don't want to look like you're weak-minded, or don't have like the willpower to do the thing that you claim that you're going to do, which maybe is self-destructive in its own way. But at the same time, it's like,
I don't think so.
It keeps me on track. I mean, a lot of like sports psychologists and like behavioral analysts would say telling people about your plan actually diminishes your ability to do the plan.
Really?
Because you're getting rewarded, you're getting serotonin dumps.
It was the opposite.
So, well, it was a book that I read that he said something along those lines, and it was I think it might have been Atomic Habits. Anyways, I don't know. I can't remember. I've listened to a lot of books in the last couple months, but essentially it was saying it's a form of accountability.
I could see how you.
Yeah. I
No,
mean, yes, I could like Noah's like that's what I'm doing is I'm
Right, right.
producing my own accountability
Well, just to make
within
you-
myself.
just to make you right, because I could see the other end of that of like because you already got the reward system
Correct.
because you told other people.
And
Right,
you
so
get
you already
so
get
it's
the reward.
tricking your system into being like,
Yeah.
oh, I like to talk about all the things I'm going to do, but I never
Correct.
actually follow through
Yeah.
with them. And just by talking about them, I feel fulfilled in the
Yeah, that's not
idea of the journey. I
You're
think
doing- you're on the other end of the spectrum.
there are people who do that.
Yes,
So
there-
like when I read
I
that
hate
in the
those
book,
people.
when I read
I
that
don't
in the
associate
book,
with those people. I'm like, get out of my life. You're just
I was
talking. Show me, dude. Show me.
correct. So whenever I read that in that book, I was like, oh, that's very interesting because I do that except for the opposite reason. But
Yeah.
anyways, because I tear myself down. I'm like, you don't have a choice anymore. You told people you're going to do this, so you have to do this.
That's good. Those are two good things. Like it's greater than you. Like you're building a life greater than yourself through the proxy of the things in your life that are physicality. And then you're bringing people around you who are like-minded, which fulfills you. And then you have a great wife who you could be a garbage can and she'd still love you. So that's awesome. And then, you know what I mean? You could just be trash.
Could be a garbage can.
You could be.
I am a garbage can.
Yeah, you eat all her meal prep, so you're the garbage can. Just all the food goes in. Insider information here, people. But yeah, no, that's cool. And then you don't want to be a liar, which that could be really motivating. I could see that. Like I told everybody I'm going to do this. Like I don't want to be a liar, so I'm going to just grind a little harder. I could see that. That would motivate me. I'm going to try.
Whether I'm grinding harder or not, I'm at the very least doing the work to do it. Like
I'm
that
gonna
I
try
believe
that.
is a
I don't
minimum.
want to be a liar. I definitely like have.
You can start telling people like Luca, be like, I'm going sub 5 today. And it's like sub 3, whatever it was.
We should have him on the show.
Just like
How
say
do you come to
something
this?
and then in the middle of the workout, be like, can't be a liar. Gotta do it. Gotta
No.
do it.
Oh, that's even funnier. He was doing the workout and he wanted to go sub 10. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think that's a little hot, right? And he was like in the middle. And I was like, hey, you said you wanted to do this. You better fucking do it right now. Like in the workout. And he tried to pick it up. But you know that look that you give Harley? I was like, oh, he gave me the Harley look where it's like, oh, save me right now from this workout. You know that look that you give? He gave it. And
Well,
I
there
was
was like a moment where you said when he passed the 10-minute mark that he had kind of emotionally like recognized it and then
Yeah.
kind of backed off. And then you were like, no.
yeah, no, don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Like just because you didn't do the 10 minutes, like
Yeah.
don't make it worse right now because we're not doing this again. I yelled at him on the rower. I was like, you better go right now because we're not doing this workout again.
This is your chance.
Yeah, this is it, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was funny. Yeah. So now we know what
He would,
motivates
he
Harley.
would be a good guest. You should have him on the show.
It's all of the self-destructive narratives in my mind of like, don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah. Sometimes that works. All right, Heather.
I think mine is like I just like to be able to like do really cool things as you get older. Like I just like to know that I'm 44 years old and I can do things that 44-year-olds can't do. And I think that like just being really fit and just continuing that throughout my life and just being able to get better as I get older, I think is like really cool. And people tell me they think I'm in my 30s, so that's also like a motivator. I don't know whether they're just like placating me. I don't know, but that, and I think there's like a lot of different. I was just telling this to John earlier today. There's different like just genetic health things in my family that happens, and I think also just like continuing with fitness, whether it's like competitive fitness or not, but like doing CrossFit until the wheels fall off is also just a motivator in that to just like elongate my life.
Just
Stay-
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yep. You like to establish your human dominance on others.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. I saw this thing. I keep telling people this. It's like I saw this thing on the internet that said, when you turn 40, when all the people
Oh,
you went to
God.
high school with either look like they're 30 or they look like they're 60. And I'm like, man, that's like so true. And so it's like, I don't know, it's like cool to be in your 40s and do things that people in their 20s and 30s can't do.
Sick. When it's really hard, what do you think about? Because Harley thinks about how he can't be a liar. I think about how I want to just like be physically more capable and try to hold on to it. What do you think about when
Yeah.
it gets tough?
I mean, I just like I think about just like, this is like what I'm working for. Like, this is what I want to do. And I think that like, I want like the fitness. So I'm chasing the fitness, and I don't want to like, if I stop, that I know that I'm like doing all this work in,
So
or
you want to make
nothing.
it, you want to make it worth it.
Yeah.
So like in the moment when it's tough, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
I better make this worth it because I
Yeah.
did all this work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, especially like at the end of, like, you think about like the open workout, right? It's like you get to that rower when like that in that singular incidence, it's like you just did all of that work. It's like you literally can't stop and like give it up now. So I think like thinking about that in a lot of sessions where
Yeah,
when
Carlos,
it gets really
last
hard.
50 cows were a fight.
Yeah. I felt like the worst part of the workout.
The workout was easy.
Well, I'm just not as fit as you, I guess.
That's gonna upset a lot of people. We were talking about that today. Like in hindsight, I was like, it is like you just think about it of just like what you had to do. It was just the accumulation and then like
Yeah.
the speed that you had to keep up
Yeah.
was what made it hard. But the actual workout itself
Yeah.
is pretty simple.
Yeah. Well, I should say, like, reflecting on it, I actually didn't think the workout was super hard either. Like the barbell, the wall walks, all of that. I think that I was just blinded by like that last 2.5, 3 minutes of the workout on the rower that made me think about like the whole workout was like that, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's, as someone who, like, I tried, like, I'm not gonna say I didn't try in the workouts. Like, I'm not gonna protect my ego and be like, oh, I just walked through everything. No, like, I tried, but like I didn't have any inherent pressure hanging over myself, and so I did probably win at like 90%, right? 95%. And like it was very hard by the end because that's the nature of CrossFit. It's potent. That last 50 cals, like if you're running your race and your pace is hot by that point, it's uncomfortable. And to your point, like if you're really sending it and you're selling out in the last 50 cals, your short-term memory takes over and you're like, oh, that entire workout was terrible. It's like, well, really, it didn't get bad until like the end of the cleans. Like for most people, if you paced it right and had relative to your capacity. But it's like you can make these workouts as easy or as hard as you want. And like it really depends on either how, if you have a bottleneck in a given area in that second week, then you probably weren't going to be having that hard of an experience metabolically. You were just going to get stuck when you got there. But if you're able to do all of the things, if you're strong enough, skilled enough, etc., then it's like it's just as much, it hurts as much as your aerobic fitness will allow you to express.
Yeah. Well, it's also crazy that 2-3 minutes of work can just totally take over your mind of a whole like 15 minutes of work. Like you just like, I just like honed in on how bad that, and almost like, oh, I don't want to repeat it or do it because of just 3 minutes of work.
For sure.
When really in reality,
I felt like the last 5 wall walks was the work. I was struggling there. Everything else was. I also fell apart in the snatches. I was like, yeah, dude, it's gonna be chill. Like you're just gonna do what I was gonna do 12, 8, 6 or whatever.
Mhm.
To do the snatches, you did 12, 8, 6.
No, I was going to. I did 9 on my first set.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
that's still aggressive. That's still pretty impressive.
Because I knew I've been training snatches. Mercer's been doing echo bike and barbell snatches at 95 because it's one of my like weaker points. And so I was like confident in it. Like I was like, this is gonna be chill. I do the first.
What time did you get to the snatches?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the video, but
What was your total time?
15:01.
Ooh, you're fit.
Yeah. So it had to have been
Real
like
fit.
around
You beat me by a minute, bro.
10, 11
Dude,
minutes.
you're just deconditioned. That's what happens to people who stop doing high functional fitness, execute at relative intensity or whatever the fuck. That's what's happening.
You're
don't
saying
have
I'm
enough
out of shape.
exposure.
You're saying I'm out of shape.
For high level CrossFit, yeah. And you
Yeah.
would, if you started doing it and training it, you would get back in shape and then womp all our
yeah.
booties.
It's
You
okay.
would crush us all of us. All right.
It's all right. Jace's 40% wasn't good enough. So
What?
What is he trying to say?
Think 40.
Because when you're
I wanted
ready
to
to
bring up
clear,
some other stuff though.
I always like to think 40%.
But anyways, yeah, the last wall walk. So I fell apart in the snatches. I did like the last 2 sets, like I went 4-4 in the snatches because I just like fell apart. It was not the plan, not the business. But it was okay. I did great. All right. Regina stole this quote from Marissa. If it hurts, you're doing it right. told myself that at least 10 times in the open.
Mhm.
And that's what I trained
Oh,
for.
maybe that's why, because Marissa was over my shoulder yelling at me to hold on.
All right, what's Jace's thing? I always think 40%
It's the next line. It's
Okay.
the next comment.
because you're ready to quit. You've only made 40% of your body can do. Is that true?
I don't know. That
that-
if that's what gets him going, it works.
Oh,
good.
okay. All right.
Works enough, I guess.
How do you go?
He's trying to say like his
I want
mind.
more, I want
the
more
mind
information on
for the
this. I
body.
want. Yeah, how'd you get to 40%?
Yeah, where'd you get that number from?
You probably just
Making,
This is
Making
good. I want to
sense.
elaborate. Elaborate more in the comments. This is great. The 40%. Let's have him call in the 40% motivate mantra.
so he just made it up. That's just
Yeah,
his,
it's just
his
funny.
number.
Hey, cool.
It's
Good.
like we only have access to 10% of our cognitive ability as a human, like 10% of our brain power or
This
something.
is not true, Nate. You didn't just black out during the row. You were very cognitive. You heard me telling you what to do, and you were picking it up, and you like got up to I think like 1,700 cows per hour, and you went like you stepped up. You were like 12, 13, 14, 15.
No, he just blacked out during the second workout on his redo.
Jace is not a SEAL, Nate. I mean, he wishes he could be a SEAL. He's just not tough enough.
You know that I'm glad this got brought up about the SEALs. It's
Why?
the 40% SEAL thing. You know, they say the Buds trainers, it's in books, all the SEAL book that you read. They don't build mentally tough people, they find them. So coming in with it.
So
41%
stupid.
is my mantra. Listen, Cody, you guys want to dive into metrics, Cody?
Oh, dude.
about.
You got to watch yourself, boy. You on the cut list. Like if we were a sports team, you'd be benched right now. All right. So you got
Dude, that
to.
pneumonia took him down, bud.
Yeah,
That's true. That's fair. I got
it
to
took him out.
and his performance anxiety. That's right. I said it.
Ooh,
Said it.
kill him.
Okay, listen. You got to be like Kimmy, and when they come off the field, and I told her one time
Kimmy.
from when I coached high school lacrosse, I was
Yeah.
like, you know what you got to do right now? Show me you want to play out there. Sit down. That's what I said. What a great high school lacrosse coach.
Builds character.
It does. Go ahead, say it. Thank you, Cody.
We'll save it.
We'll say it. All right, I'm with you, Cody. I wasn't even sick. I benched in solidarity. CJ's benched too, I guess. Whatever. Dude, speaking of like being benched, as far as like scores, you're not ever really benched. You guys put out your best efforts. It's like Noah's actually on now, but Noah and I were talking about a couple of his athletes, and we have a whole spreadsheet that I had the coaches fill out every week. Should we even show that? Is that like incriminating evidence for people or no? Should we share it?
I sent a corner of it to someone the other day.
We'll
Yesterday.
share it, just a little bit of it, not a whole lot. I'll show it for a little bit.
I mean, we can.
So
get
we
all the
do this
information on
whole
the
thing. We do this whole
internet.
thing with all our people. Yeah, you can find it. We scrub the leaderboard, and then we put you guys in there. Green is obviously in the percent. Yellows, you're pretty close. Red is you got to go.
CJ, no, don't share.
Don't
For
share.
the sake of my mental health. Okay.
Don't share.
Well, that's the end of
For the
it.
sake of my mental health. I just want to show you guys, like, we took all the athletes and we do that just to make sure where people are week to week to week. We fill in every week, and we look at like how close people are in the job they need to do. And like for the sport level and in the competitive CrossFit, like that's important to know. Like you need to know where you are in the set point. You need to know what you need to do if you can even control the thing that you need to do. Because the issue that we always talk about is the leaderboard itself is not on how well you do, it's on how bad others do relative to you. Is like really how it works. But knowing that like, hey, look, somebody's in yellow week 2, so they're close and they got to push themselves in, let's say they're 200 spots out. That's like the first place to look. And then from there, you got to look at like the workouts and like how close are they to fitness. Cause you could ask somebody to move up 200 places, but that gap, let's just say you look at one workout and you're like, man, they were 50 reps off that 200 gap on the first workout. So they didn't do enough burpees and snatches, or hang clean and jerks. And that might be a huge ask to sit down and say, hey, look, you got to do this to get into this spot. There might be people where it was like 3 reps in the first workout. So it's like, okay, your fitness is there. Like you're there with those people. So week 2, we need to really sit down and like look at the workout and figure out how you're going to get closer to that so you can break through. And I think just as far as like open debrief for everybody, whether you're an elite athlete or you're just looking to do this and get better, don't look at the placings so much. Like I know we have like the 1%, the 2%, and then the level system and everything else. Try to get away from that and look at the individual workout scores, and then look at where you want to be. Like find that person or the person, quote unquote, in the leaderboard. Say I want to go from 200th place to 150th. We'll go to the 150th place person and look at what they scored and see what that difference is. And is it a 10% difference from your scores? Is it a 5%? Is it 1% difference?
Well, not even percent, right? Like you can even look at it and be like, oh, I'm only 30 seconds behind the time that I need to be. And it's like, well, where do I find 30 seconds across that workout? And then you can go watch your video back and you're like, oh, shoot. I did singles on the snatches and Todd was able to cycle 9.75 or whatever he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get whatever it is. Like, and it's like, cool. Well, just by taking those extra breaks and hesitations, it accumulated 15 extra seconds. Sweet. That if I just learned to cycle the bar, a light snatch under duress more effectively, boom, I already am halfway to my goal. The other half might be row power output, like, or wall walk efficiency. And then you can just narrow down your direction of where you need to improve very, very clearly without having it feel so daunting, right? Like it doesn't always need to be like, I'm 1,000 spots away from my goal. It's like, no, you're actually only 45 seconds away from your goal.
Right.
Like
that's why we have the spreadsheet, and then we do that on the back end. But for yourself watching it, you should do that. It makes things more tangible, digestible, makes you feel better too about yourself, because that's what's most important. You're not a piece of shit. As Harley said, your self-efficacy and your worth is not wrapped up into your placing.
Mine is, but yours isn't. I'm just kidding.
Only when you lie to people, apparently. Yeah. There's way more tangible stuff, but I think we'd like to save that for our internal people. But it was pretty good overall. I really enjoyed the Open. Did anyone not enjoy the Open? I was going to bring up their comments, Cody and Jace, but I want to just let them fight it out in the comments.
They're making jokes about Viagra right now, and that's how you go harder. So, fun facts for you.
Me? Oh, Renata hated the Open. Let's talk about this. This is good. I'm glad. This is mindset stuff, and I think that's what most like. Oh man, I don't know. We could always talk about mindset stuff. Everyone gets so hung up on it. Harley loves it. But because with the training, like for us and like even the people that Harley gets to interact with and like guide in the gym, and like Heather and I, we're so good at writing program design, and we're so good at getting people fit systematically that I think that's what then becomes the biggest sticking point. And unless you're down the funnel of that fitness, I think sometimes you haven't even earned the right to even talk about mindset, because like you can't even do. Like I'm going to hate on Renata, because like Renata, look, you can't even do 10 unbroken pull-ups, like or chest to bars. So like, let's get that figured out before you have like a negative mindset about anything.
Well, I think
right?
she's talking about her foot, right?
Yeah. You have no right to be upset about that.
Right.
Like, unfortunately, like, yeah, be upset because it happened to you. You fell off a pad or stepped off a pad and fractured your foot. Foot is now healing. You crushed it. You came in, we gave you modifications. You did wall walks with the boot on. You did lunges with the boot on because the rule saved you, because you didn't have to alternate feet on the lunges. Like you did a ton of the Open in the face of adversity. So I want you to back up that comment. Just take it back. Take it back. You haven't earned it. Maybe next year you can cry. We'll put a cry tally in the gym for you. Harley knows about those cry tallies. Cry about your performance and how you want to be better and everything else.
Well, and I think, but Renata specifically, I think it's like she was working on her pull-ups and her chest to bars and was putting in the work on the machines and doing all of those things. And so I think she was like looking for an opportunity to be able to test herself and do those things.
What I'm saying is that's all fitness related, right? So like until you get to the point where you're like really threading the needle on fitness and the scores and you have all the skills, like if you come to the table lacking ring muscle ups, legless rope climbs, handstand walks. Like we could go down the list of things that like you don't have. You don't really have, you haven't earned the right to be upset. Like I hate it. I'm sorry. I'm going to just berate people. You haven't earned the right to be upset. Like earn all those things to play the game and then be upset. You know what I mean? Like you haven't done all the work yet. Anyone, you can argue with me. It's okay.
My biggest complaint is that when people use qualifying excuses, or it's like they do a retest, they improve, but they're like, oh, but like I think I could have done better. My stomach was hurting. I'm like, no. Or it's like, oh, if I knew I was gonna be close to the cut line, I would have tried harder. I'm like, you retested every workout. Like you're telling me you didn't try hard. I don't believe you. Like things like that are just like guarding the ego.
Right. And this is good. See, I pushed on her a little bit and she says, take him back. I will say though, that I did not think a year ago I would mentally push myself to do it like I did this year. And I would have just sat out. And like, that's
a win. It's
a
huge win.
You would have sat out and I forced you not to, and you did a phenomenal job. And like, we're going to get you all those things. Like, I know I say those things and I'm like really aggressive about it with people, but I'm going to tell you right now, like, I'm not going to not give you the answers. So like, but you got to take that. You got to take the real talk, and I'll give you the path forward to make you better. And like, yeah, Renata, you'll be doing legless rope climbs, and I'll die before that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's how dedicated I am to making that work. But like, yeah, we got to be in a spot where like, hey, you're not there yet. Stop being upset. There are other things in life to be upset about. This is not one of them, you know? Let's see. What's Cody's qualifying excuse? Is taking what? Oh, Cialis.
Taking sleeping pills.
Oh, yeah, I did. What do you?
That's not the best pre-workout out there. There are betters.
Let's see, Jace. The Open's such a difficult online competition because it will expose the exact fitness level in the comparison to you and your peers. For me, it was always better than what I want. Yep. Yeah, you always want to do that. And Jace, look at that's like what I was saying. Jace has earned it. Jace has earned. Like if Jace came on here and was like, I'd be like, yeah, dude, be mad. Like you worked real hard. You like if you're upset about anything, you've put in all the work, spent all the time, all the process, and you're ready to play the game, and you have a full toolbox. And like it got tough. Yeah, be mad.
So Jay said an interesting one to me on the phone call the other day. He said that he believed the first week and the second week favored the exact same athletes.
I would say similar, but no. Like here's why I would say no. Dallin Pepper is what 6'1", he said, and he also said that in the first week, his goal, if you watch his like online YouTube thing, whatever, it's either on Brute or it's on his, that his only goal is to finish the scorecard, which he did. But he didn't like break the scorecard like Colton Mertens did. So like that's a byproduct of him just not knowing that like someone was going to get beyond those last lunges. So like that was like his mindset going in. So like you're going to be kind of closed into whatever you expect in it to a degree. And Dallin is like huge compared to Colton.
Dallin's definitely at least 6'2" at this point.
Yeah, he might be taller than he said 6'1" on the live.
I'm reading Cody's comments. I was just kidding. Yeah, no, I find it interesting because Jace was like, oh, it's the same test or it's rewarding the same people, I think. And then I said,
because Dallin and Jason did really well.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think it is. I think it's his example was that like the top 30 people won essentially both workouts. I was like, yeah, because they're the fittest.
Yeah, and they're varying heights. And what do you mean? I don't understand.
And then the contrary comment I made was I found it really interesting that he and Celine are getting like, don't get me wrong, like some of those workouts were really perfect for her, but at the same time, like, and her capacity would support that rate of travel. But like they got almost the exact same scores and they're opposite athletes. And so like, I think as long as it's a well-rounded set of tests, the fittest people or the people are going to fall where they deserve to fall if the tests are balanced. Yeah.
I think the other thing that people don't look at, and I believe that the tests were very balanced and they're very CrossFit from like I said, 2010 to 2017, like .com style workouts. But
great.
what I would say is when you look at what the characteristics are of what is needed to do well at that test, and that's what people don't look at is like, if you have a 300-pound clean, a 135 clean is going to be easier than somebody who has a 225 clean. So when we look at like absolute strength metric, improving that strength metric. So a strong person is going to do better in the barbell work because it's a lower percentage, assuming they're aerobic and fit enough. The same thing on the rower. Then you look at the other workout, the thruster, same deal. You have a 200 to 300 pound thruster, you're kind of in the same bucket. Well, someone who's got a higher thruster, like 300 pounds, is in a different bucket. But like, let's say 200 pound to 250 thruster versus a 250 to 300 pound thruster, that 135 bar in the end there is vastly different for you than somebody else, right? So having a higher strength is huge. The skill in the gymnastics, the speed of the gymnastics, like you could have somebody who's got short, tiny arms and they cycle their gymnastics faster. But like if you have a higher volume than that person and more fitness than that person and your skill and your technique are better, you're still going to beat that person, even if it was just a gymnastics test. And like the dubs are neutralized. That's a basic skill. Even Dave said that on the internet and upset a lot of people. And then the first workout, like we had Meg, she got 303. And we got my wife who got 289 or whatever, and is 18 months or whatever from childbirth throwing down. And then also Mo, who's also tall, getting a very similar score. And like Meg got what, 287 on the first time. So like if she did it one time, not twice, those scores are the same. And they're tall versus short. So like when we look at characteristics of that, I don't think it favors any singular athlete. What it favors is the characteristics that need to be built on the back end to perform well inside of those workouts. And it's like strength, aerobic capacity, gymnastic skills, like all the things we talk about. And it covered all of those bases across the 3 tests. And like I've said before, the same 30 of the same 30. And that just proves my argument, though. You could take the CrossFit Games athletes from the open.
Or from one workout.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the first workout being that workout, but you don't need very many tests to make it happen.
Yeah. But like to my point of the characteristics, like that first test could have been the last test and a stronger person would still do better because of the characteristic of strength, So like you could take any one of those tests and I would argue that you're right. The first test, maybe not so much, but again, a 50-pound dumbbell, you able to do a 100-pound dumbbell snatch or clean and jerk versus somebody who can only do a 60 is very
I think the characteristic that you've mentioned a few times, you keep talking about the strength, but the characteristic that is truly supporting everything and like the glue putting the pieces together is the aerobic system. The ability to express that speed and maintain that speed. No, I'm saying, the metabolic conditioning, the work capacity, the aerobic base that will support that level of work capacity at the rate of travel needed to be competitive. Right. Because as we can all agree that aside from the second workout, even at the highest level, rate of travel is king. Like you have to move fast enough to play the game. The second workout, you can break stuff up and you can strategize it and find your best breakdown to express your top score. But you could say the same thing about any of the tests to do that, except for the first one, which was everyone went unbroken and steady. Mm-hmm. It's just what was your steady slow or was your steady fast in the first one. But in weeks 2 and week 3, finding the appropriate strategy is necessary, but also having the fitness to support the strategy needed for that rate of travel to be competitive is necessary. So I think that's all comes back to the aerobic fitness that is the building block, the biggest portion of the pyramid, metabolic conditioning. Yeah.
And like that's something that people do need to understand. That's why I was going to just cut you off about the metabolic conditioning phrase versus like aerobic. Aerobic conditioning is in, like, for people listening, it's in the metabolic conditioning. Like there's also the glycolytic and everything else, right? So like, but Harley is 100% right. Like the more aerobic you are across these 3 tests, the better you're going to be at these 3 tests. But I would say that is true more often than not across all CrossFit. Like the more aerobic you are, the easier it is. You can fake strength. I mean, look at Fee Sangafi. She's been to the games multiple times. She's not the strongest athlete. Look at Emily Rolfe. You know, Cody Anderson is strong now. He was strong at the time when he made it to the games. He's much stronger now because he's like just doing barbell work. But like at the time, or like Chris Spieler, you know, there's a quote unquote outliers, but I wouldn't even say they're outliers. I feel like there's like Brandon Luckett's not the most super strong guy in the space, and he is fit, you know, and just qualified to the games last year. And if you've watched his interview, it was like, oops, I made it kind of thing. But he's not one of the strongest guys, you know. Strength is great and it gives you a buffer. But like what Harley was saying is CrossFit has always been an aerobic sport. It's an endurance sport that's bolstered by strength, which like sometimes I think people get backwards. Everyone wants to get stronger and stronger and stronger to do better. If strength is your limitation, yeah, that'll help. But if you're aerobic, that's going to pay off way more as long as you're strong enough. And sometimes I don't know what strong enough is, because like Paige, one of my athletes, is a good example. Like she's not strong at all. Like she's gotten strong over the years, but she's had huge performances in her CrossFit career void of being strong. So I don't know. What's Harley looking at? Reading the comments. Oh,
I'm just fidgeting.
Steph McConnell. I enjoyed it till Monday. Listen, Steph.
Yeah. Do you have any comments for people who may have just missed it?
Like me?
Sure.
Play a sad song. for
Play
Instagram.
a sad song. No, I picked the song. What you got to
playing
do
the world's smallest violin.
is what you got to do is you got to take a thing from your whatever you want to post from your open, and then you tag me in it. But you got to put 365 days until hockey tryouts, and then when you tag me, I'll repost it and I will choose the sad song for you. You don't choose a sad song. I choose the sad song.
Tell them how you discovered.
Here's how I choose the sad songs. Are you ready for this? It's groundbreaking. On Instagram, for the music search, you put in sad song, and then you just scroll through and you pick one that you like. It's really fun. So great. But no, you know, I mean, that is serious, because I would like for you to do that and I will repost you. But yeah, for people who just come up short, like one, still do, like I already told Steph she should come up here and join the party with the masters athletes and compete and like throw down and see where she's at and see what she's got. And but if you're that close, you still should do it, because you're like Harley was saying, like you're seconds away from somebody. You're one better choice in one workout away from qualifying and reaching that goal. Then the other thing too, like I said, is the leaderboard. I've said this forever. The leaderboard is broken. So that's the first thing. Like, just, it is what it is, and it's the game we're playing. It's how they're choosing to score the points. But you are only as good or qualifying as well as other people are, or as bad as other people are, because of the point system and the points you get. Like you get 1 point for first, and then down. That doesn't show your fitness. I've always said they should, once the P score got created and invented, I was like, this is great, because it shows like people's differences in fitness, and it doesn't change the scoring system very much. It's just hard to understand, because people will be like, well, why does this person get this many points and that many? And that it's really hard to follow unless you're in the sport and in the space. But it would show you exactly where you're at relative to your peers.
Okay, so the real question is, since you were so close, does that mean you're going to throw down at semifinals?
Yeah. You gonna come out?
What do you mean? I live here.
I was talking about, oh, me? No,
Yeah,
I got a bunch of
you.
people to coach. I wasn't that close.
Oh,
I needed
now
like
you were
300.
that close. What do you mean? You just said you were 200
close.
spots.
I was really close. It
And
was
really, that the 200 spots was the difference of him
should have just
not being sick
redid the
in
second week.
workout.
Yeah, not being sick in the second workout and just sucking it up and redoing it and trying to go faster, which I could have easily done. Like easily, it would have hurt real bad.
Okay.
Listen, man,
So easy.
it was like today.
All right. Jace dropped another question. If the fittest always wins, why does the winner of the Open often differ from the winner of the games? I have an opinion on that.
That's not necessarily true. And there's tests and skills that are like outside of their control. Once you get to the games, you're testing very different things. Coaching people at the games, it's a whole ball of yarn. They have the opportunity to do things that are outside of CrossFit's ethos and window of in the box, like in the gym setting, like CrossFit.com, the quarterfinals, everything else. Like once you get out there, you're testing more, I would say, athleticism, people's agility to respond to change, new skills, even if it's not like a new skill, the ability to race, compete, awareness of field. So there are people who do better in person than in their gym because they set their like precision of execution of workouts better in a lane. You see that in any in-person competition too. So those values you can't really like measure and put up against the open qualification process. There are also like judging errors, judges calls. There's so many other things that have nothing to do with people's fitness that impact the leaderboard and the outcome of the CrossFit Games or an in-person event. And then the more tests you have, the more strengths and weakness, like needs analysis, things that you start seeing in people. You're going to see people who can't snatch 225 for 30 reps, and you're going to have to be one of those.
Dude, that's going to be wild at semifinals.
Right. So that task has never really been asked other than outside of a fun thing that's floating around in the CrossFit community since like 2012, 2013, 2014. That's why you see the old videos of it. And it's people are going to do it and they're going to do well. But like those types of things is a variable because you might have some strong mofo who got through because they're aerobic enough and then they win that event, but then they get 30th on another event. And then so they end up 19th.
And the contrary, like there are people that I know who are in the top 30 in the West who only snatch 255, 260.
Yeah.
And they're going to get wrecked with that 225.
Yeah. And so there's just too much there. I mean, you look at a lot of the games events, like especially the years with like the O course, the sprint race. Like Nate loves this stuff because this is how Nate and I have been having this conversation about who's the GOAT, who's, is it Fraser, is it Matt? And arguably it's Tia because she has all the things. There's not a tool missing in her toolbox that she can't face whatever it is and just like dominate on people. And when you start looking at the games athletes, they have a lot of holes, more so than people really even think or want to admit, because it's hard to say that because they're the fittest on earth and they're it's exciting to watch and they're so good and they're so much better than we are. And some people would say don't say that about them, but it's like, no, they do. They have a lot of holes and that's what would make them better and compete and be at the top. It's the same reason why I look at Colton Mearns. Yeah, sure. He's first, but because of some execution stuff and a couple events last year at NorCal Classic, he didn't go to the games. That doesn't mean he's not a games athlete. There was just in-person issues that have nothing to do with his fitness. So you're not really ever finding the fittest. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I was going to say to summarize as well, because I think you made a lot of really good points there, was that it's the fittest on the given day with a set of tests.
Yeah.
So like all the things you just shared, outdoor
Nate
events,
has these numbers.
the unknown, the et cetera, the heat, the environment, the hydration, the lack of recovery, the ability to perform for 4 days straight, 5 days straight, rather than 1 to 2 workouts a weekend. Like those are all different qualities. And to Nate's point, I'm pretty sure that the games winner has been, I would have said like top 10, like been in the top 10.
This is what Nate does for a living. He does numbers. So I'm not going to argue with his numbers in his spreadsheets.
Oh, I'm not arguing. I was just saying, like, my gut reaction would have been, I would have just thrown out, oh, they've probably been top 10.
Yeah.
So like to see, it's like, yeah, they've been in the top 3. It's like, does not surprise me at all. And no one since Matt's reign and then previously Rich's reign has been like, yeah, Justin won it twice, but like no one's been dominantly perennial like winner for an extended period of time. And so like, I don't think that there is one person that is the fittest anymore. I think that it is variable based on all of those, variables.
Yeah. Until like someone comes with the full deck of cards.
Which
all right, Steph, she's gonna cry for a day and move on. I like that. That's good.
No song on the original post. Todd's got it.
Yeah, no song on the original post. And then tag me, and then I choose the song because that's what's fun and funny. It's stupid. I have a good time with it though. I like it. Yeah, Nate and I have been arguing back and forth about stats all the time. I was just like, I can't argue with the stats. I can only argue the intangibles because it is truth to that. But yeah, sorry, Jace. Sorry to burst your bubble there, but there's a lot. It's very different. And I mean, you know that. I think he knows that intuitively. He's been in competition.
I think you could even make the argument that like people at that level aren't peaking for the Open.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah,
no
kind of.
This is true.
Sure, kind of.
I've said
Yeah.
this for a long
I mean,
time.
they've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, it's just the one. Well, okay, time out. No, I would say they're still the fittest person on earth. Because look at Ben Smith and Mackenzie Flincham, and they went out and did the Army fitness test, and they don't get their scores to be put up because they're not in the military, but they whooped on the best military operators that have done that Army fitness test. So, and there's lots of examples of that. Like, I think CrossFit makes way more formidable human beings by the measure of taking a CrossFitter and putting them in other things. And Tia has now proved that by just setting the world record with the other friggin' Hyroxer that no, we are the fittest on earth. Like I will go down with
Yeah. So, but you're saying CrossFitters are the fittest on earth. He's saying that it's no longer the fittest person on earth
it's
on
the
the
fittest
given
person on
year.
there. Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, 100% it is. I do not think that the person that won the CrossFit Games will lose across lots of different things against other exercisers.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, Dave said it before too. It's like,
Or like
yeah,
sports,
like his rationale about cuts and things like that is like, hey, if we're trying to make this a sport, like cuts happen, you know, the winner of a given year is the winner of a given year, no matter what the argument is of like, if you want to call it the winner of the CrossFit Games or the fittest on earth, it's like in that moment on that week, they were the fittest in this set of tests. And it's like, and so therefore that's the title, it's the fittest on earth, because they jumped through all of the hoops throughout the season to get there.
Yeah.
As well as if you gave them more tests, they would probably still thrive because the cream always rises to the top.
Yeah. And you take away skill sports, right? So like Jace has a good example. He gets to see it firsthand every day. Like look at Shanna doing pole vault, like how quickly she picked that up and how well she's doing in that. Like you don't just like magically do that. Like it's being bolstered by the fact that she was one of the fittest on earth in CrossFit, and she's able to parlay that into greater abilities. And I would argue that's true for everybody. You know, like James Sprague isn't so good at throwing a football because he never played football. But he's not bad at throwing a football. Like when they showed the behind the scenes, now he's not as good as Dallin because Dallin played quarterback in high school and then went on to CrossFit. So like, yeah, he's good at throwing a football. Jason was a receiver for Clemson, you know, so he can catch that ball from Tyson Bagent and it looks really cool in the behind the scenes. That skill is a skill. Like anybody could spend time learning that skill. That doesn't mean that it equates to fitness. It's a characteristic of fitness, but that same wide receiver can't do 7-minute AMRAP of burpees and beat Jason Hopper. So when we're talking about fitness, the ability to like do a task, which is the definition of fitness from Webster's dictionary, they have more ability to do tasks than people who are a specialist in their thing. It's the reason why Hunter McIntyre, even though he was the best Hyroxer and the best Spartan racer on the face of the earth, he's not the fittest. And he tries to like argue that, but it's like, okay, well, how come James Sprague comes in, doesn't train this thing, and like you give him his flowers on your podcast because you know that if he decided to quit CrossFit and do and train the running, because that was his weakest point, but he beat everybody in the sled and everybody in the wall balls. They have that metric. And McIntyre was like, yeah, the CrossFitters have the most leg endurance, the most power output than any human on earth. So like, yeah, they are the fittest. They could do whatever they want. Like look at Kelsey Keel doing bobsled, being a pusher. I mean, Tia, the Commonwealth Games, then went to the Olympics for Australia. Like there are small examples, but that's only because the other people are too busy doing CrossFit to give you other examples.
We were talking about James Newberry the other day. Do you think he is the best hybrid athlete in the world?
That's yeah. Shortly, yes. I think there's a lot of caveats, but yeah, I could get on board with that argument.
So the year one of the last years he went to the games, in the last like few years, he did a full Ironman within a couple months after that. He then within another month or two after that did a powerlifting meet. Whether or not like he put up world-class numbers in the powerlifting meet, like I think he still was putting up respectable CrossFitter numbers, you know? And so it's like, that's pretty wild. Like, the only reason I bring him up, and now he's like winning High Rock stuff. The only reason I brought that up is I saw it on Instagram. He made some dumb post about like 8 exercises every High Roxer needs to succeed.
That's because they're
And
trying
it's
to
like,
Mhm.
they're for sure they are. But I'm like, how about the like 10 to 12 years of CrossFit that you trained and the years of doing endurance sport before that?
Oh,
And,
Harley's,
like,
Harley's in my boat now.
I'm like, dude,
Heather, how often do I complain about that?
Almost daily.
I see someone's post. I'm like, dude, you're just gonna negate the 20 years of CrossFit you did. Like, get
Yeah.
get
Well,
out
that's
of
what
here.
everyone's doing to sell their thing.
I know. It's terrible.
all right. Well, I got to go get on a bike. So
Yeah, we're gonna go. I hope we solved that though. I'm glad Jace is challenging it. I think a lot of people do, but and it'll be really tough to ever like have a definitive argument to that. But yeah, they are the fittest on earth, and they can do lots of things. They're insane human beings. It's crazy, and I want to be one. I'm going.
Semifinals.
Yeah, let's go. I didn't make it.
I
You
didn't
can still
make-
do it.
Dude, we have 20 people coming. I cannot do it. That'd be irresponsible.
I know. I'm just
well, just like Chase,
Right.
just like Jay said the other day, he was like, "Well, you could do it, it'd just make life really shitty. Like you have the time, you just don't really.
I could
Like,
do
you
it.
don't really like want it.
I don't
that
have the
bad.
time. No, I don't have the time. I could do it a following weekend for sure. But with the amount of people we got to put through and the lanes and everything, there's
Dude,
no.
I told Jace that I
there's no
didn't
time
have
for
time to
me.
run more, and he was like, "No, you do." He's like, "You have to go somewhere to run," and I was like, "Well, here's my schedule." He's like, "Oh, there's an extra 2 hours in there," and I was like, "I haven't listed eating food yet. Like, what do you mean?" Like,
Everyone can find the time. That is true. It's just like, what does that take away and diminish in the other areas, right? So like, we got 20 people coming out and out of those 20, almost 7 of them are trying to go to the CrossFit Games. So I'm not gonna sit here just to get my jollies off and do
Right.
the fucking workouts. Like that's stupid.
I was more razzing you about it because I
Stop
knew
it.
it would
Leave me
make you, I
alone.
knew it would make you
Just
uncomfortable.
leave me alone. Okay.
no, you totally should do it. You should just ignore all your clients and just prioritize yourself.
Oh my God.
I think that's what I'm going to start doing moving forward.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Actually, there's more than 7. I shouldn't throw shade like that. There's a lot of people actually. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a lot. I gotta go down the spreadsheet. That was a wrong claim. I'm sorry.
7. Psh,
It's more than that.
it's more than that.
I don't coach them all, which is great. You guys do, and it's amazing. We're gonna crush it, dude. Boulder athlete. Who's that? Who are those guys? Who are they?
Nerds.
Yeah. All right, an hour and 27 minutes in. No one will hear that. All right, like and subscribe. Share this if you did it. If you guys want to post a sad post about your open and not making it good, and I will repost you and pick a sad song. It's going to be great. Okay. See you later.